There are some recordings the public never gets to see, not because they were fake, but because they were too real. Every year, thousands of hours of CCTV footage are erased, archived, or hidden from the public. Most of it is meaningless. Empty hallways, parking lots, people walking home late at night. But sometimes a camera records something nobody can explain, and once that happens, the footage disappears forever. Tonight's story is about a recording so disturbing that multiple officers reportedly refused to watch it a second time. A tape locked away, a woman who vanished without a trace, and a figure that should not have existed. Before we begin, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because the next story might make you question what cameras really capture after midnight. The incident happened in October 2018 in a quiet apartment complex called Ashberry Heights. The building sat on the edge of town, surrounded by dead trees and abandoned factories. Most people ignored the place. Nothing interesting ever happened there, which is exactly why Martin Hawley liked working there. Martin was 34 years old, divorced, quiet, and desperate for a job that didn't involve people. So he became the overnight security guard. His routine never changed. Clock in at 10 p.m., check the locks, watch the cameras, drink coffee, go home at sunrise. Simple, boring, safe. At least that's what he thought. On October 14th, rain hammered against the windows for most of the night. The building felt colder than usual. Even inside the security office, Martin could see his own breath. At 2:13 a.m., one of the IV monitors suddenly flickered. Camera 6, third-floor hallway. The screen distorted for half a second before returning to normal. Martin frowned. Old cameras glitched all the time. He reached for his coffee and glanced back at the monitor. That's when he noticed it. A figure standing at the far end of the hallway, tall, unnaturally tall. Its head nearly touched the ceiling lights. At first, Martin assumed it was a tenant wearing a coat. But then he realized something strange. The hallway lights were motion-activated. If someone stood there, the lights should have turned on brighter, but around the figure, the hallway somehow looked darker, like the camera itself refused to focus properly. Martin leaned closer to the monitor. The figure wasn't moving, not even slightly. No breathing, no shifting. Nothing, just standing perfectly still facing the camera. And then Martin heard breathing behind him. Slow, wet, uneven breathing. His body froze. The security room was tiny. There was nowhere for anyone to hide. Yet the breathing sounded inches away from his ear. He slowly turned around. Nothing. Empty room. The sound stopped instantly. Martin looked back at the monitor and nearly fell out of his chair. The figure was closer now. Not much closer, but definitely closer. The problem was Martin never saw it move. There was no walking, no glitch, no skipped frames. 1 second it was far away. The next second, it wasn't. A door suddenly opened on camera 6, apartment 214. An elderly woman named Margaret Collins stepped into the hallway carrying a trash bag. She shuffled slowly toward the elevator before stopping. Her head turned toward the dark figure. She froze, completely froze. The trash bag slipped from her hand. Garbage spilled across the floor. For nearly 15 seconds she stood motionless, staring at the figure. Then her mouth opened wide in silent terror. She backed away slowly. The figure did not move. Margaret suddenly turned and ran back toward her apartment. But before she reached the door, the hallway lights went out. The screen filled with static. Martin jumped to his feet. Jesus Christ! When the camera returned 3 seconds later, the hallway was empty. Margaret was gone. The figure was gone. Only the trash bag remained. Martin grabbed his flashlight and radio and rushed upstairs. The elevator felt painfully slow. When the doors opened onto the 3rd floor, the hallway was silent. Too silent. No footsteps. No voices. Only the buzzing of fluorescent lights overhead. The spilled trash still sat in the middle of the floor, exactly like it appeared on camera. Martin approached apartment 214 and knocked hard. No answer. He knocked again. Still nothing. Then he noticed the apartment door was slightly open. A cold smell drifted from inside. Rotting wood, wet carpet, something metallic. Martin pushed the door wider. The apartment was dark except for the flickering television in the corner. Static hissed loudly through the room. "Ma'am?" he called out. No response. The apartment was empty, but there were signs someone had left in a hurry. A chair overturned. Tea spilled across the kitchen floor. Family photographs smashed beneath muddy footprints. Martin slowly moved deeper inside. That's when he noticed the writing on the wall above the television. 5 words, scratched into the wallpaper. IT knows you saw IT. Martin backed away immediately and radioed the police. Officers arrived within minutes. At first they treated it like a missing person case, but everything changed after they reviewed the security footage. 2 detectives and a patrol officer watched the recording inside the security office. Martin waited outside. 10 minutes later, one of the officers walked out pale and shaking. He looked physically sick. Another detective immediately ordered the footage copied and secured. Martin overheard one sentence before they closed the door again. "Pause it right there." Then silence. After nearly an hour, the detectives emerged from the room looking terrified. One officer refused to speak at all. Another asked Martin a strange question. "Did you replay the footage more than once?" Martin said no. The detective looked relieved, but he wouldn't explain why. Police confiscated the DVR system before sunrise. The next day, rumors spread through the building. Some tenants claimed officers argued loudly during the investigation. Others claimed they heard screaming from inside the security office, but nobody knew the truth. 3 days later, Margaret Collins was officially declared missing. No body was found. No suspect identified. No explanation given. Then Martin received a phone call from one of the younger officers involved in the case. The officer sounded exhausted, terrified. He told Martin something he was never supposed to hear. According to him, the footage behaved strangely. Every replay was different. The figure appeared closer each time they watched it. At first it stood at the end of the hallway, then halfway down, then directly outside apartment 214. One detective reportedly replayed the footage frame by frame. In one frame, the figure had no face. In the next, it appeared to be smiling. And in the final replay, the figure was staring directly into the camera. The officer whispered one final thing before hanging up. It knew we were watching. After that call, Martin stopped sleeping. Every reflective surface began bothering him. At first it was small things. He thought he saw movement in mirrors, a dark shape in windows at night, something standing behind him in his television screen after turning it off, but whenever he turned around, nothing was there. Then the nightmares started. Every night he dreamed of the same hallway, the same flickering lights, the same tall figure slowly approaching him, never running, never speaking, only getting closer, and every dream ended the same way. The figure standing inches from his face, whispering something Martin could never remember after waking up. Within days, Martin became paranoid. He covered mirrors with blankets, stopped answering calls, stopped leaving his apartment after sunset. His co-workers noticed dark circles under his eyes and trembling hands. Then came the final incident on November 2nd. Martin called his friend Daniel at nearly 3 a.m. Daniel later told police Martin sounded terrified, barely able to breathe. He kept repeating the same sentence over and over. "It's outside my bathroom." Daniel tried calming him down, asked what he meant. Martin whispered, "It learned how to leave the screen." Then the call disconnected. Police arrived at Martin's apartment 20 minutes later. The front door was unlocked. The apartment lights flickered constantly. Every mirror inside the apartment had been covered with blankets or smashed apart, except one, the bathroom mirror. Written across the glass in dripping black letters were 5 words. "Now you can see me." Martin was gone. No blood. No signs of struggle. Nothing. Just an empty apartment. Police searched for months. No trace of him was ever found. After the disappearance, the entire investigation was sealed. The CCTV footage was never released publicly. No screenshots leaked. No copies surfaced online. Officially, the case remains unsolved. But years later, one retired detective finally spoke anonymously on an online forum. He claimed the footage still exists, locked inside evidence storage, untouched for years. According to him, the final version of the recording was the worst, because in the last replay, the figure was no longer in the hallway. It was standing inside the security room behind Martin, watching him, smiling. And the most disturbing part? Martin never turned around. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. Would you watch the footage, knowing it might watch you back? And remember, sometimes cameras don't capture ghosts. Sometimes they capture things waiting to be noticed.